Hi everyone! I think I'm live. So the timing of this isn't the best because the tornado alarms are going off. It's their test every Wednesday at 12 p.m. I didn't really think that one through. But anyway, I'm just gonna sit through this while we wait for people to jump on. But I'm really excited for the Supercharge Your Superpowers mini workshop. This is my first ever Instagram live workshop, and also the first time I've actually channeled for a live group. So this will be very interesting but fun, and I'm excited to do it. So I hope you got your lunch or breakfast, whatever time zone that you're in, and are ready to join us. Okay. So today I want to go over what the 4 main clairs are. And then I want to also talk about the chakras, because I feel like a lot of people actually don't really know or understand the chakras, but then how that correlates to your intuitive abilities. And then from there, I also want to talk about different limiting beliefs that you might have regarding accessing your intuition and steps you can take to kind of conquer that. And then at the end, I'll do an Akashic Record reading for the group. And I do have to apologize as well. My dog is insisting on being in this room with me. I think she wants to help hold the space. So you might hear her snoring, but you know what? We appreciate her for being here. Okay, so let's start off with the 4 main clairs. Oh, and I do want to say this is for everyone, and I want to also reinforce that you do not need to be a quote born psychic to have intuitive abilities. And I say that in air quotes because I actually believe that everyone's technically born with psychic abilities, but somewhere along the way we just felt like we couldn't use them, we disregarded them, was told it was bad, fill in the blank. Or maybe even some of us have dormant gifts, and that's because we weren't ready to access them until now. So if you feel a strong calling, you're probably ready to awaken those gifts on an even deeper level. But before we get started, I also want to pause and just take a moment and envision what your life would look like if you were fully trusting your intuitive gifts. How would your life be different if you were led from higher wisdom, such as your spirit guides or your higher self? What would you do differently? And how would you feel? My guess is you would feel a little less stressed. Maybe a little bit more at peace. Now, when I had that exercise for you, if you took a minute there, did you see something through your mind's eye? Did you feel something? Did you just know or hear words of what that life would be like? Because guess what? Those are your intuitive abilities. Yes, so let's start off with clairvoyance. Let's say that you, when I told you to envision, you closed your eyes and you literally saw a picture of yourself. That is your clairvoyance, and you're tapping into your future self and your potential future timeline. I know. So clairvoyance means clear seeing, and that is associated with your 3rd eye chakra, which I will talk about in a little bit. But your 3rd eye is right here between your eyes on your forehead. And I think the biggest misconception for clairvoyance is, for one, when people hear clairvoyance, they think that means all the intuitive gifts wrapped into one. Like when people hear psychic, it equals clairvoyance, but technically that is clear seeing. And although some people, and I think mediums and certain psychics might actually see something through their actual eyes, and that might happen to you too, but I think a majority of people, it actually comes through like their mind's eye or visions, like imaginations. And so the reason why a lot of people may write it off is because when they see this, they think they're just making it up. It's just their imagination and it's not real. But I'm here to tell you that it is real. So if you're a really vivid dreamer, let's say, my suggestion to you would be to have a little journal right by your bedside. And you can even set your intention before you go to bed that you want to, let's say, just activate your gifts on another level, or you want guidance on a particular thing that's going on. Set your intention, and then when you wake up, write exactly what happened, all that you can remember or envision from your dream, and see where that takes you. Okay. I think a good way to envision it is also just to close your eyes for a second and start breathing into that space and tapping on that area, and that will help activate it as well. Like right before you go into a meditation, if you could take a deep breath and start tapping. That's my little tip for the clairvoyance. Before I move on now to clairaudience. So clairaudience is clear hearing. And a misconception, again, for this one is people think that you're literally just hearing words in your ears. And now, not to say that's not the case, but it takes a lot of energy from the other side for you to actually hear one or two words coming through your ears. I have had it happen, but it's not the most common. It actually is going to sound, again, like your own voice. And it's going to sound like voices in your head. So it's going to sound like your thoughts. And that's where I think the biggest block comes for people is they can't recognize the clairaudience because they have so many other thoughts going on in their mind. And this was a big struggle for me at the beginning because my mind was always going crazy. I had so many anxious feelings. So the trick that actually helped me, I feel like I need to say this, and it might sound silly to some people, but the best thing you can do for yourself is every time a thought comes up, especially like an anxious thought, acknowledge it and then send it on its way. And I did this, and you might not do it every time, but just having that awareness in the front of your mind, slowly but surely, you're going to be able to like filter out those thoughts to the point where they won't come up nearly as much. And something I like to say is, that thought is not mine, return to sender. And you will be shocked at how effective this is. And I actually got this download when I was in a meditation, and I actually got into the meditation because I was super anxious about something going on in my life, and I was dealing with a certain person who's also very anxious. And when I talked to her, I realized I was getting really anxious, and I was picking up on her anxiety, which was actually an empathetic empath situation. But I said return to sender, and then I started doing that with my thoughts as well, because I realized I started picking up on things that weren't mine. And how many of you guys are probably doing that and not realizing it? So that brings me to my next one, which is clairsentience, and that's clear feeling. So a lot of people refer to this as being an empath. And so you're either picking up on the feelings of other people, like I just described, or you're feeling the feelings from spirit coming through. Say like you get the chills, or the hairs on the back of your neck start standing up, that sort of thing. And a big block, I would say, at least my block, was that when I heard empath, I thought that meant that you had to be an empathetic person. So meaning that you were super like nurturing and all the things. And I was like, I'm really not like the most empathetic person. I can be quite, blunt and straightforward. And so I just thought automatically that meant that I was not an empath. But that's actually two separate things technically. You can still be an empath and pick up on other people's feelings without being super empathetic. Do you catch what I'm putting down? So I wanted to throw that one out there. And then the other thing is your heart chakra might also need a little bit of love and healing, because what tends to happen with people that are empathetic is they either give too much where they don't receive back, or it could go back and forth, or they could have a complete block. Like this was me. I was just like rock stone like barrier between me and other people, because the pain that I felt being an empath at a young age was just too much for me to handle. So the only way I knew how to deal with that was to create a block. Now, that leads me to the next part. It is good to have like boundaries, particularly loving boundaries, but you also want to have compassion. So it's like this balance. And that's what the heart chakra, which I'll go into next, is so good for. It is an amazing balance between feminine and masculine, and giving and receiving. So a healthy heart chakra will help you have compassion while still maintaining healthy boundaries with others, and will amplify your empathic abilities. So on to the last one, and that is claircognizance. And that is a clear knowing. So this one's probably the hardest to differentiate when you first get started, because it's hard to recognize how you just know something. And a good way from the beginning, I think, to recognize it is to keep acknowledging these strokes of genius or instant hits or downloads of inspiration. Keep acknowledging them, either writing them down or saying thank you, more please every time it comes through, so that it keeps coming through. And eventually it won't even feel so much like an instant download. You'll just literally know deep down that that's what you're supposed to do, or say, fill in the blank. But a good exercise for this, I would say, would be, again, acknowledging it, but seeing where that took you. You might not always know why you were inspired to do X, Y, and Z, and you might not know for a long time, but when you do see a result of some sort, no matter how small or little, keep acknowledging, keep acknowledging, keep acknowledging. Okay, I think that is it. So the 4 main clairs were Clairsentience, Claircognizance, Clairaudience, and Clairvoyance. Those are the main 4. There are a couple others, like there's one for taste and smell, and there's one for intellect, but I feel like when you're first getting started, we'll just start with the 4. Help keep it simple, you know? And with these 4, there's actually 4 main chakra points associated with these intuitive gifts. So you might be asking, what are chakras? They're basically just a wheel or a disc of free-flowing energy in the body. And each chakra is a certain point within that body, and they each have their own function and color that we like to coordinate with. So I did print out something, and this is one of the bonuses in my course. And I don't know if you guys can see it here, but it kind of goes over the chakras, and then behind here is how each chakra relates to the intuitive abilities. So the first 4, or top 4, I should say, which is the heart, throat, third eye, and crown, are most commonly associated with your intuitive gifts. So the heart is going to be a green space right here. Like I said, this is for love. It's an energy center. I would say that balances out the others. It's where you give and receive. So even if you want abundance, you want a healthy heart chakra in order to be able to receive that abundance. And also balances the feminine and masculine energies within the body. And this is associated, the heart chakra, with clairsentience, like I said. And then moving up to the throat chakra, this is associated with your clairaudience, which is clear hearing. And that is because that is your communication with spirit. And the throat chakra represents authentic self-expression. and communication. So that's right there, the throat. And then moving up to the third eye, which is right there. It's an indigo disc. And that is your clairvoyance or clear seeing through your mind, what we like to call like your mind's eye. And then your crown chakra is on the top of your head. It's a purple disc. And that is your connection to divine source energy, and where you will receive massive downloads, and what I like to call your claircognizance is right here. Okay, so let me tell you why I think the bottom four are just as important for your clairs. Because the root chakra is associated with safety, support, groundedness. And if you don't feel safe in your root chakra, you won't feel safe expressing your intuitive abilities. And also, a big thing that people don't realize is in order to access your intuitive gifts even better or more effectively, it's important to ground your energy into the earth. I know a lot of people don't want to ground because they just want to be floaty and up in the air. But Spirit always reminds me that the earth is part of the cosmos and your frequency is needed on this planet. So it's very important to ground. And the more you ground, the more information that you'll get. And then moving on to the sacral, which is right there. It's an orange disc. This is your center for creativity, sensual expression. And I always like to say that Spirit and higher realms are so full of limitless creative potential. So in order to fully access that, you want to have a healthy sacral chakra. And then lastly, your solar plexus, which is right in the center of your body, below your chest, is the yellow disc. That's your power center, your center for self-confidence. And if you don't have self-confidence, it's going to be hard for you to have confidence in your intuitive abilities. So I actually think that one's like one of the most important when it comes to accessing your intuition. Okay, so now that I got that covered, and if you want that worksheet, I'd be happy to email it to you. Just send me a private message. It's going to be also in the course modules. This lighting's weird. Okay, so why might you have some blocks when it comes to accessing your intuitive abilities? I would say there's probably three main things. One being limiting beliefs. So say, for example, you feel I'm not good enough to be intuitive because fill in the blank. I know, like for me, when I first got started, I would see all these amazing multi-dimensional channels and I would be like, how could I possibly do that or be as good as you know, you don't feel worthy or good enough, but I'm here to tell you that you absolutely are. And it's up to you to start believing that. And the more you do, the more you'll expand. Trust me, I did it myself. I was nowhere near what I'm doing now until fairly recently. So I feel like I gotta turn this light down. It's like really bright. Okay. Okay, next, old programming. So there's a lot of programming when it comes to being an intuitive or psychic. I know even for me, like being referred to as a witch, I was like, oh, no, I don't want to be referred to as a witch because that means I'm bad or I'm channeling with demons or XYZ. So there's a lot of programming that make people scared of accessing their intuitive abilities. And one of the main ones that I hear is fear of connecting to something evil. So make sure that you note that if that's one of your old programmings. And in my course, I will show you how to make sure that you are only channeling higher realms so that you do not need to worry about that. And then last but not least, which I don't think many people talk about, is your shadow self. So what is your shadow self? It's basically that part of you that you're ashamed of or feel guilt, I would say. Like the part of you that you really want to lock into a closet door with a lock and key and throw it away and hope that nobody sees it. That's your shadow self. And a good way to recognize this is like say throughout the day you start noticing that you're judging something or someone, it's actually a reflection of you and what you were told at some point, most likely in your early years, that you would be unlovable for if you are that or were that. And maybe you were that and were judged for it, so you have a lot of shame about it. When I started doing the shadow work, I started to own what was owning me, and by doing that, I created space for my intuitive gifts to move through me. So I would say shadow work is one of the most important things to access your gifts, and you can even set that intention when you're doing the shadow work to help you activate your intuitive abilities. Hope that I explained that well for people that might not know what shadow self is, but it's so important because it's owning part of us without us even realizing in our subconscious mind. So how do we go about reprogramming all this stuff, whether it's the limiting beliefs, shadow self, etc.? There's a lot of different ways. I would say go with your intuition as to what feels good for you, but there's different meditations or hypnosis meditations, tapping, affirmations, which I actually suggest for affirmations that you use I am affirmations, and ideally do it in like a meditative state so that you can more effectively get to your subconscious. If you don't do it that way, write them down with white paper and blue ink. It gets to the subconscious quicker. Just wanted to throw that little trick out there. And even better, if you could somehow do it with your own voice so that when you listen back to it, you can hear your own voice, that'll amplify it even more. So changing the narrative through affirmation. So first look at what all of those limiting beliefs are, and then take each one and reframe it. Through affirmations, hypnosis, breath work is another one. People tend to love breath work because they feel like that breath really helps them reach their subconscious quickly and easily. So I suggest that as well. And all of these are in my Bad Bee Magic course that I will be launching on 4/4. And last but not least, some of you may or may not be familiar with light language. To be completely honest, this was a relatively new concept for me. I had heard people say light codes, and I've heard the term light language, but it wasn't until about the end of last October that I was like, okay, what the hell is what? Like, I've heard it, but I don't really quite understand what it is. So this is another way to help you reprogram and activate parts of your intuition. And let me just explain really quickly. So light language is kind of like an overall umbrella term for it could be codes, it could be words, it could be movement, what else? Song. Some people dance. Like, light language is just like a form of those things that someone is channeling from the higher realms that's coming through. And a lot of times you'll hear someone speaking. I say speaking light language is probably the most common. And then there's also something called light codes, which is under the umbrella of light language. And that is the one that's more like symbols, codes, drawings. And these all are, again, from higher dimensions that are channeled through the person for you to either heal, clear, or activate, and ultimately help you ascend. And that is also something that I started channeling once I got my feet wet with understanding what it was. I started to have it come through. At first through codes and symbols, and then light language has now been coming through as well. And I have a special code that came through for my audience, and that'll be in the course, as well as some light language. I just feel like light language is so quick and effective at activating, and it can also be very healing as well. So I suggest looking into that if you so feel called. So to summarize everything that I just talked about, I feel like I went through that kind of fast, but you know, when you're talking to yourself on here, feel free to say hi, whoever is on. But so to summarize, we went through the clairs, the 4 main ones, which is clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. I went through tips on how to acknowledge it, potential blocks, and ways to kind of help you activate it. And then talked about the chakra system and how that relates to your clairs and the importance of having a healthy chakra system to be a clear channel for those clairs. And then we talked about limiting beliefs, your shadow self, and old programming, and what you can do to use those tools to heal and awaken your intuitive gifts, which again are all in my course, Bad Bee Magic, where you start on 4/4. I'm so excited for that. So I'm gonna have all that stuff in there for you, plus so much more. You'll get a Claire handbook, so way more tips and tricks and activations on the first week for your intuition. And then the second week, we dig into some of this stuff that's holding you back with all kinds of stuff. We do tapping. That's another one I think I forgot to mention, tapping. So that helps. Your tapping is when you're like going through different acupuncture points in the body to clear any stuck energy. So yeah, we do tapping, meditations, breath work, affirmations, all of that's in my course, and particularly in week 2, which is the most important. And then week 3 is when I add a little bit of my secret sauce, which is the light language and light codes to further your advancement. And then to top it off, the cherry on top, for week number 4 is when you'll schedule your Akashic Record reading with me, with the intention of even further activating your gifts in the quantum field or the quantum level. Because through the Akashic Records, which is in essence your soul book, we're able to access a lot of information and stuff that might be holding you back that you're not even aware of because it didn't happen in this current time. So we'll dig even deeper with that. And plus week 4 has a bunch of bonuses in it as well, such as the chakras. I had included another chakra meditation, and then a couple other things, but you have to go check it out. It's all in the link. I have all the details in there. And what else? Oh, before I get into an Akashic Record reading for you all, I wanted to give you a little bit of homework. So with the new moon coming up this Friday, which I love that it's on 4/1, right? The first of the month, and it's in Aries, and I'm in Aries, so you know, what can I say? I want you to set your intention April 1st, whether it's simply just writing it out. You can meditate with it or talk with your guides if you feel called, but if you just want to start with a simple writing it out, I encourage you to do that and set your intention for that month. I feel like Aries is like they're the leader, they're the go-getter, they're the doer. They want to just I feel like this is perfect energy to really set how you want things to keep going for the rest of the year as spring is here. And feel free to ask your guides for help, whether it is to activate your intuitive abilities or whatever you want your intention to be. So let's go ahead with the Akashic Record reading for the group. This will give you a little taste of what it's like to have an Akashic Record reading with me. Although I will say when it's one-on-one, it's a lot more activations and clearings. But since this is a general one, we'll see what comes through. And if you're watching this, I do need you to just state that you are giving permission for this reading and any activations or clearings that come up during the reading. And let's get into it. So usually someone that reads the Akashic Records will say a little prayer at the beginning to help get into the frequency of the records. I don't know if you can hear my dog, she's snoring. But I also like to, before we say the prayer to get into it, to just ground our energy. So let's just take a few deep breaths in through our nose and out our mouth. Feel free to make any noise that wants to come out. Now picture 2 vines at the bottom of your feet. And these vines are going to go down and down and down and down and down, deep into the center of the earth, where you feel so safe, grounded, and supported. Now pull that energy back up and up and up and up and up, out to the top of your head, connecting you to the cosmos. Breathe into the space, your connection to source, and your multi-dimensionality. Now pull this energy back down from the top of your head, through the center channel of your body, down your legs, and back to your feet. This is your spiritual cord that's connecting you between heaven and earth. Keep running this cord up and down a few more times. And relaxing any tension in the body. Okay. I'm going to say the prayer. We gather together in light. We gather together in love. We gather together in knowing the messages from above. Through the Akashic Records, we understand our greatness. Through the Akashic Records, we understand our wisdom. Through the Akashic Records, we understand what's there. This prayer will help deliver us there. I wish to know my audience in the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see my audience through the light of the Akashic Records. Bring me to feel my audience in the light of the Akashic Records. I wish to know my audience in the light of the Akashic Records. Help me to see my audience through the light of the Akashic Records. Bring me to feel my audience through the light of the Akashic Records. My dogs are about to bark, so just bear with me. It's part of doing a live. There's a package coming. And now the Akashic Records are open. I'm going to close the door before they start barking. Hold on 1 second. Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry about that, guys. The Akashic Records are open though, so, I feel like the universe is testing me a little bit because this was my very first live and actually my very first time channeling in front of a live audience. So, that's what happens, I will say I can feel the energy, like in the crown, particularly right now, really strongly. This is, again, your connection to source energy. It's being activated as we're in the Akashic Records. But to further activate it and show you a way to access your higher self, picture a violet flame on the top of your head. And this violet flame is going to go up and up and up and up and out and out and out and out, expanding and opening up your crown chakra. clearing away all self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and thoughts that are not yours. Raising the energy and frequency of your crown chakra, creating a clear channel. Okay. I can really feel it opening. So take a moment right now to tune into any sensations that you're feeling. This is your Clairsentience. See if you're getting any words in your mind so you can ask a question and see what comes through. Or if you're visual, see if you can picture your higher self. What would your higher self have you do or say today? What messages does your higher self have for you? I'm hearing be okay by sitting in the silence, and that's not just for you, that's for me too. I know. I always want to go, and they're like, no, you can be, you're okay in the silence. You can sit in the silence. So I'm just going to let that give you a moment to sit with your guides and your higher self before I move on. The message that's coming through for you, and particularly within the next couple of weeks, they're saying you were drawn to this audio for a reason. There's no such thing as a coincidence. You're ready to awaken on a deep level, transform. Your curiosity is for a reason. You're starting to remember that part of you that's always been there. You're remembering the support that has never left you. Keep remembering, keep acknowledging, and you'll be so amazed and surprised at what transforms and expands just by your pure acknowledgement. Keep trusting even if you don't understand the outcome. I'm hearing some of you may doubt your intuition because you didn't like the outcome of something that you could have sworn was good for you, like it was a hell yes, but for some reason it didn't work out like how you expected. They're saying that there was a lesson in there for you and it worked out exactly how it should have. And do not be afraid of more lessons moving forward. The more you trust, the more that will come through. I'm hearing the more you trust, the more capable you will feel in handling certain situations that might scare you. And they're grateful that you are here and taking this time to connect with them, with your guides. It's just the beginning. I have to say, for me personally, now that I'm kind of coming out of it a little bit, like that, I could just feel so many of your guides right now coming through so intensely. It's almost like they're hugging my head. But I know it's just because they're all they want to all communicate and come through to give you the message. But I just want to communicate that you are definitely not alone. I can feel the presence big time. Although, oh yeah, okay. So they're reminding us that the reason why we might feel alone is just from the separation from God or source energy, which you are a part of. We are all a part of God. And you are not separate. You are still connected. You can continue to activate your chakras, in particular the crown chakra, to remind yourself and remember this truth. It's such a beautiful message. All the fears, worries, anxieties are because you feel that separation. And that's okay. It's part of the human experience. Do not be hard on yourself. Just acknowledge this when it comes up and remind yourself of how amazing, divine, and pure love that you truly are. Wow, it's gonna make me cry. That's such a beautiful message. Okay. Is there anything else you want me to tell them? Again, the biggest thing they want to stress is just the acknowledgement of yourself being an intuitive and the support around you. So whether that's writing down every day little miracles you've encountered or received, or intuitive hits, or maybe just what you're grateful for, whatever you feel called to do, whether writing that down or leaving a voice note, allow that to come through you and acknowledging it in some form. We are always here for you. We are always with you. We give gratitude to you for being here. Namaste. Amen. And I just see your guides like bowing, and they're so grateful for your time today. It was a beautiful message. And this was so fun. I'll have to do a group one again. I did not know so much would come through for a group reading. And I feel like even more could come through in all honesty, but I'm feeling a little emotional from that message. So, and I feel like I've kept you on here long enough, but if you want me to do some more group readings, I'd be happy to. I think I will regardless. Okay, so at the end, how we like to close the energy down is just by saying a quick little prayer. So I'll go ahead and do that. I give gratitude to my audience for entering the records. I give gratitude to the guides for lighting the way. I give gratitude to the space for the comfort and love. I give gratitude to my audience's highest self for leading us here. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. The records are now closed. Amen. I hope you can sit in this and just integrate it for a little while. And I'll leave the details of the course in the description if you feel called. Sending you all my love.